Let me ask you a question no one's ever asked you. When was the last time you checked your shoes? Not for dirt, but for danger? Most people don't realize it, but your footwear could be one of the most overlooked threats to your health after 60. I'm not talking about fashion faux pas, I'm talking about something far more serious. I'm talking about falls that shatter independence. Shoes that quietly erode your balance. And choices that seem harmless, but could one day cost you your freedom. I've been a physician for over 3 decades. I've seen the heartbreak in the eyes of seniors who walked into my office one month and were in wheelchairs the next, all because of a fall that could have been prevented. And far too often, the culprit wasn't a disease. It wasn't frailty. It was shoes. Shoes that were too old. Too tight. Too smooth. Too open. Too familiar. Shoes that no one ever told them could be dangerous. You see, your feet, once strong, padded, and responsive, change dramatically after 60. The nerves that help you balance weaken. The fat that used to cushion your steps disappears. The bones shift. And yet, most people wear the same shoes they did 20 years ago. Completely unaware that those very shoes are now working against them. I'll never forget a man named Thomas, a retired high school teacher. He was independent, active, proud. Then one day, while reaching for a glass of water, his worn leather loafers slid across a damp floor. That fall shattered his hip. In a blink, his life changed. He went from hiking trails to needing help to get to the bathroom. But here's what I want you to know, that fall didn't happen because Thomas was careless. It happened because no one warned him. No one told him the truth I'm about to share with you in this video. In the next few minutes, I'll reveal the 8 silent footwear mistakes that steal mobility from millions of older adults every year, and I'll show you the 3 life-changing solutions that gave Thomas his freedom back. These are practical, science-backed strategies that most doctors only share behind closed doors. But today, I'm putting them in your hands. If you care about your health, your independence, or someone you love who's aging, stay with me. This isn't just another health video, it's a roadmap to walking stronger, living longer, and keeping your golden years truly golden. Before we dive in, take one small step to protect your future. Hit that subscribe button. If you've ever felt pain in your feet, knees, or back, or if you've simply wondered why walking has become harder than it used to be, this could be the most important video you watch this year. And now, let's begin with the first deadly footwear choice. Because trust me, what you don't know about your shoes can absolutely hurt you. Meet Thomas, a 72-year-old former teacher with a sharp mind and a big heart. He wore the same loafers for years, comfortable, familiar. But one rainy morning, he stepped onto a damp kitchen floor, and in a single second, everything changed. A slip. A hip fracture. And a terrifying prognosis: you may never walk independently again. Why? Because the soles of those loafers, smooth from years of use, had turned into a trap. But Thomas didn't give up. With guidance and grit, he reversed his decline. Today, he hikes with his grandchildren. And the first step was understanding how footwear fails us with age. Your feet aren't what they used to be, and that's not your fault. After age 60, 3 changes occur. 1. Fat pads thin, reducing natural shock absorption. 2. Balance nerves degrade, making it harder to stabilize. 3. Joint alignment shifts, increasing your fall risk. What worked in your 40s can harm you now. Yet most seniors keep wearing shoes built for younger bodies. So let's explore what to avoid, starting with the most deceptive offender. Deadly footwear number 1, the practical heel. Let's start with a shoe that hides its danger behind the illusion of practicality, the low heel. Now, when most people think of dangerous heels, they picture towering stilettos or fashion-forward footwear from their youth. But here's the shocker: the so-called sensible heel, the 1-inch or 2-inch pump that feels mature and modest, is often far more damaging over time. It's easy to underestimate just how much a small heel can throw off the alignment of your entire body. When your heel is even slightly elevated, your weight shifts forward. The ball of your foot bears a pressure increase of up to 75%. That's not just a number, it's your toes being crushed together, day after day, year after year. This tiny shift at the foot doesn't stay at the foot. It causes your knees to push forward, your hips to tilt, your spine to compensate. What starts at the floor works its way up the chain, and over time, it begins to wear you down. Let me tell you about Janet. She spent 30 years managing a bank. Every single day, she wore her favorite pair of sensible low-heeled pumps, no more than 2 inches high. They weren't flashy, she told me. They were professional. Supportive. Comfortable. But after retirement, something changed. Her feet began to ache. Her bunions, which she had ignored for decades, flared with pain. She could barely walk across the room without wincing. Eventually, she needed foot surgery, a complex, painful operation with months of recovery. That operation stole the travel plans she and her husband had waited years to enjoy. Janet didn't ignore her health. She wasn't careless. But no one told her that those modest heels she trusted were gradually reshaping the structure of her feet. No one warned her that decades of daily compression were setting the stage for a mobility crisis. Here's what most doctors don't explain: it's not just how high the heel is, it's how long you've been wearing it. Your foot, by age 60, has likely taken more than 75 million steps. And if those steps have been taken with your foot tilted forward, even slightly, the damage adds up silently. What do we see as a result? Shortened Achilles tendons, misaligned joints, hammer toes, nerve impingements, and worst of all, an increased risk of falls, especially as balance naturally declines with age. Now, take a moment and check your closet. Do you have that one pair of low heels you pull out for dinners, events, or even errands? Maybe you haven't thought much about them. Maybe they still feel fine. But here's the truth: comfort doesn't always mean safety. You may not feel the damage building until it's too late. It's not about fear, it's about foresight. The good news? It's never too late to switch. With the right support and alignment, your body can begin to recover. Muscles that were compensating for poor posture can start to relax. Pain can ease. Balance can improve. But it starts with awareness. It starts with letting go of the myth that sensible heels are safe just because they're not tall. So I challenge you, take a fresh look at what you think is practical. Because sometimes, the real danger is disguised as something you've trusted for years. Coming up next, a summer favorite that's destroying more senior joints than most people realize, and chances are, you have a pair sitting by your front door right now. Deadly footwear number 2, flip-flops, the grip that breaks you. They seem harmless, light, casual, easy to slip on. In fact, for many people, flip-flops are the ultimate symbol of retirement freedom, bare feet, sunshine, and not a care in the world. But behind that laid-back image hides one of the most deceptive threats to senior mobility. I call them the grip that breaks you, because every time you take a step in flip-flops, your toes are forced to grip and curl, just to keep the shoe from flying off. And that tiny act, done hundreds, even thousands of times a day, completely rewires the way you walk. Now here's what that does to your body. That gripping motion tightens the muscles on the underside of your foot, changing your gait without you even noticing. The effect ripples upward: tight calves, strained knees, hips that rotate unnaturally. It doesn't happen overnight. But it builds with every step. And it wears you down. Unlike supportive shoes that move with your foot, flip-flops make your foot work against the shoe. And that's the opposite of what aging feet need. And here's the real kicker: flip-flops offer no arch support, no heel cushioning, and no shock absorption. Every time your heel strikes the ground, the force travels straight through bone, joint, and ligament. That's fine when you're 20. At 60 or 70? It's a different story. Let me tell you what happened to Thomas. After decades of teaching high school, he and his wife finally took their dream retirement trip to Florida. He packed light, like most of us would, and wore his favorite pair of flip-flops nearly everywhere, around the pool, to the cafe, even for a mile-long walk on the beach. By day 3, he couldn't put any weight on his heel. What started as a dull ache had become a sharp, burning pain. Diagnosis: plantar fasciitis. Inflammation of the connective tissue that runs along the bottom of your foot. The fix? 6 months of physical therapy, multiple steroid injections, and a walking boot. 6 months of lost freedom. All from wearing shoes that felt easy. And it doesn't stop at foot pain. Because once pain sets in, you begin to walk differently to compensate. Your stride shortens. Your knees absorb more impact. Your hips twist unnaturally. And soon, your back begins to ache. It's a domino effect that starts with your toes and ends with you avoiding stairs, skipping walks, or needing help with everyday tasks. That's the real danger of flip-flops. It's not what they are, it's what they cause. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but I've worn flip-flops for years without a problem. And maybe that's true. But your body is different now. Your tissues don't bounce back like they once did. What you could once tolerate, you now need to protect yourself from. Flip-flops were never designed for daily walking. They were designed for quick use, showers, pools, a trip across the sand. But many seniors wear them like everyday shoes. And that's where the danger begins. So here's my advice, as a physician who's seen the long-term damage firsthand: if you want to keep walking without pain, leave the flip-flops at the beach. There are better alternatives. Footwear that feels just as light but actually supports your arch, stabilizes your heel, and protects your joints. We'll talk about those later. But first, ask yourself this: have you ever felt pain in your feet or heels after a vacation or a weekend outdoors? Did it come on gradually, or suddenly, without warning? Let me know in the comments. Your story could help someone else avoid the same fate. Coming up next, we'll look at a shoe that might be on your feet right now. It looks clean, comfortable, and reliable, but it could be quietly wearing out your joints with every single step. Deadly footwear number 3, sneakers that look fine. Now, this one might surprise you. Because the next dangerous shoe choice isn't flashy. It's not high. It's not open. It's not even stylish. In fact, it might be the pair you trust the most. I'm talking about sneakers. More specifically, sneakers that look perfectly fine on the outside, but have silently worn down where it matters most, the inside. You see, most people believe that if a shoe looks clean, if the tread's intact, if the fabric isn't fraying, then it's still good to wear. But that assumption can quietly sabotage your mobility. Here's why. The shock-absorbing midsole, the foam that cushions every step, starts to break down after just 6 months of regular use. And the irony is, you can't see it. From the outside, they still look great. But on the inside, that protective structure has collapsed. Each time you walk, especially on hard surfaces, your joints are absorbing impact forces 3 to 5 times your body weight. If your shoes no longer absorb that force for you, guess what does? Your knees. Your hips. Your lower back. And for older adults, the consequences add up fast. Let me tell you about Thomas again. He had a favorite pair of sneakers. He walked in them daily, did yard work, ran errands, even wore them to church when dress shoes were too painful. They still looked almost new, no scuffs, no tears, barely even dirty. They're perfectly good, he said to me. Why replace them? But Thomas had also been quietly dealing with knee pain. Nothing dramatic, just a stiffness, a tenderness, a slow reluctance to move. So he moved less. Sat more. Became more sedentary. And that's when his health really began to slip. What he didn't know was that those shoes, which still looked so trustworthy, were no longer doing their job. The cushioning was gone. The stability was compromised. And the pain in his knees? It wasn't just aging, it was alignment breakdown from unsupported steps, day after day. We ran a simple test in the clinic. I asked him to try twisting the shoe from heel to toe. It folded like a dish rag. And that's all it took. Within 2 weeks of switching to a new pair, with proper support and structure, his knee pain improved dramatically. He started walking more. His energy came back. He felt 10 years younger, not because of a new supplement or surgery, but because of a pair of shoes that actually did their job. It's something I see over and over again. Here's a simple truth that most people never hear: your shoes can fail you long before they look like they've failed. So ask yourself, when was the last time you replaced your everyday sneakers? Be honest. If it's been more than 6 months of daily wear, those shoes are no longer protecting your joints. They're likely contributing to the pain you've been blaming on age. And I get it, we come from a generation raised to be frugal. We were taught to make things last. To wear things out. To hold on a little longer. But here's the reality: holding on to worn-out shoes could cost you something much greater: your mobility, your confidence, your independence. And let me say this clearly, I'm not telling you to spend a fortune. I'm asking you to spend wisely. A $70 pair of supportive sneakers today could save you a $40,000 surgery tomorrow. And even more important than the money, it could save your freedom. So before we move on, I encourage you to go to your closet. Pick up your walking shoes. Bend them. Twist them. Feel them. If they don't fight back, if they collapse in your hands, it's time. Coming up next, we'll talk about the most dangerous shoes inside your home. The ones sitting quietly by your recliner or next to your bed. They're soft. They're warm. But they could be quietly stealing your stability every time you stand. Don't miss what's next. Because this one? It's closer than you think. Deadly footwear number 4, backless slippers, the comfort that trips you. Now let's talk about a type of footwear that most people would never suspect of being dangerous. It doesn't have a heel. It doesn't have laces. It doesn't even leave the house. It's soft. Familiar. Easy. Comfortable. And yet, it could be the reason thousands of seniors end up in the emergency room each year. I'm talking about backless slippers. You know the ones. The pair you keep by your bedside. The ones you slip into during chilly mornings or while making tea at night. They feel like part of the home. Like an extension of your routine. But what if I told you that this everyday comfort item could quietly be sabotaging your balance? Every single step you take? Here's what happens, without you even noticing it. When you walk in backless slippers, your body automatically adjusts. Your toes grip to keep the slipper from falling off. Your stride shortens. Your foot lifts differently. Your heel doesn't roll properly. And all of this throws off your natural walking rhythm. These tiny changes ripple upward, causing muscle tension through your legs and hips. Your ankle stability drops dramatically. And your reflexes, the ones that help you catch yourself when you stumble, become less effective. For someone over 60, that's not a minor issue. That's a fall waiting to happen. Let me tell you about Ruth. She was Thomas's neighbor, a vibrant, active woman at 78. She baked. She gardened. She walked every morning. But one afternoon, as she rushed to answer the doorbell, she slipped on the staircase in her favorite backless slippers. She broke her wrist. Couldn't drive for weeks. Needed help cooking. Lost her independence in a matter of seconds. And when the paramedics arrived, they said something I've heard far too often: we see this all the time. You see, the danger of backless slippers isn't dramatic. It's not loud or obvious. That's what makes them so risky. They feel safe. They look harmless. But they quietly change how you move in ways that your body, after 60, is no longer equipped to handle. And the numbers don't lie. Nearly 4 out of 10 in-home falls among older adults involve inappropriate footwear. And slippers, especially backless ones, top the list. Now here's something I want you to really think about. Would you ever get behind the wheel of a car without a seatbelt? Of course not. So why walk, especially on hardwood, tile, or stairs, without secure footwear? Yes, backless slippers are easy to wear. But ask yourself, what's easier? Putting on a proper house shoe, or spending months recovering from a fall? The solution isn't giving up comfort, it's choosing the right kind of comfort. Closed-back slippers with structured soles and non-slip grip can give you the same cozy feel without sacrificing your safety. And that's the key here: comfort should never come at the cost of your independence. So before we move on, I have a challenge for you. Tonight, before bed, take a closer look at those slippers you keep by your chair or next to your bed. Try walking across the room in them quickly. Notice how you move. Are you gripping with your toes? Do they slip on hardwood? If so, it's time for a change. Because a soft slipper may feel like home, but if it's stealing your balance, it's not serving you. It's risking you. And coming up next, we'll uncover the danger hiding on the bottom of your shoes, where worn-down soles are quietly turning every smooth floor into a fall trap. Stay with me. Because what you learn in the next few minutes could prevent an accident that would change your life forever. Deadly footwear number 5, slick-soled shoes. We all want to look our best, no matter our age. We've spent decades building a wardrobe that reflects who we are: polished, classic, dignified. And often, that includes a pair of nice shoes, leather loafers, dress shoes, maybe even a sleek pair you reserve for Sunday service or special occasions. But what if I told you that those very shoes, those elegant, familiar, respectable shoes, might be the most dangerous thing in your closet? Not because of how they look, but because of what they've lost. I'm talking about slick-soled shoes, footwear that either started off with smooth leather bottoms or, more dangerously, has worn down over time to the point where all traction is gone. These shoes can turn your home, your front porch, even the tile in your kitchen into a slip zone. And when you're over 60, a slip isn't just embarrassing, it can be devastating. Let me introduce you to the quiet danger of lost grip. As shoes age, the rubber or leather on the sole gradually wears down. The treads that were once designed to give you stability and friction slowly disappear. Sometimes it happens so gradually, you don't notice. But your body does. Especially on surfaces like tile, polished wood, linoleum, or concrete. What's worse, many dress shoes come with smooth soles by design. They're made for aesthetics, not safety. Manufacturers rarely consider the specific needs of seniors when creating them. I'll never forget what happened to Thomas. It wasn't a hike, or a rainy sidewalk, or a crowded parking lot that took him down. It was his own kitchen. He was wearing his favorite leather loafers, shoes he'd owned for years, clean and still looking sharp. His wife had just finished wiping down the counters. A few droplets of water had made their way to the floor. That was all it took. In less than a second, Thomas's foot slipped out from under him. He instinctively twisted to catch himself and pulled his lower back in the process. At first, it seemed minor. But the tension never fully went away. It turned into chronic pain. A warning shot that preceded a much more serious fall 2 months later. And here's what stuck with me most: he knew those shoes were slick. He'd almost slipped in them before. But like so many people, he brushed it off. He thought, I'll just be more careful next time. But careful isn't enough when your shoes are working against you. Here's something you can do right now. Take the shoes you wear around the house most often, the ones by the door or under the bed, and look at the bottom. Run your fingers across the sole. Are there treads? Are they still raised and patterned? Or have they flattened out? Now place the shoe on your tile or wood floor and gently try to slide it forward. If it glides with little resistance, you're walking on a fall risk. Most seniors don't realize this until they have what I call a near miss. A quick slip. A stumble. Maybe they catch themselves on a counter. And they laugh it off, saying, "I'm just clumsy today." But it's not clumsiness. It's footwear failure. When you're younger, you might have slipped and recovered with ease. But after 60, our reaction time slows. Our balance reflex weakens. And a small slip can turn into a major injury, fractures, head trauma, or worse. The good news is, you don't have to sacrifice style to stay safe. There are modern shoes that look like dress shoes but are built with senior safety in mind: textured rubber soles, non-slip grip, better support. Even shoe repair shops can sometimes add traction pads to leather soles. A small investment, but one that can save you from months of recovery or thousands in medical bills. So here's my message to you, especially if you've had a close call: don't wait for the real fall to take action. Style should never be more important than safety. Your life, your balance, your freedom to walk confidently, that's what matters most. Coming up next, we'll talk about a common shoe mistake that starts with good intentions. It's based on habit, on nostalgia, on the belief that if it still fits, it still works. But it's wrong. And it could be costing you more than comfort. It could be costing you your circulation, your nerve function, and your balance. Stick with me, because deadly footwear number 6 might be sitting in your closet right now, and it's tighter than you think. Deadly footwear number 6, too tight dress shoes. There's something deeply personal about shoes. We don't just wear them, we remember them. The polished pair we wore to weddings. The leather loafers passed down from a father. The classy black pumps worn proudly in the boardroom. These shoes are part of our story. But here's the danger: sometimes we hold on to them too long. Not just because of sentiment, but because we don't realize that our feet have changed. Even when the shoes haven't. As we age, our bodies naturally shift. And your feet? They're no exception. You may not feel it happening, but over the years, the connective tissues in your feet stretch. The bones slowly widen. Ligaments loosen. Decades of standing, walking, and supporting your body weight, step after step, cause your feet to broaden. By the time you reach your 70s, your foot could be nearly half a size wider than it was at 40. But most people never adjust. They keep buying the same shoe size they've always worn. Or worse, they cling to an old pair that technically still fits, as long as they don't walk too far, stand too long, or try to wear them for more than a few hours. And this is where the trouble starts. Tight-fitting dress shoes don't just cause discomfort, they restrict circulation. They compress nerves. They create pressure points in places that were never meant to carry that kind of load. And the consequences can be far more serious than a sore toe. Let me share a story. Thomas, the retired teacher we've followed throughout this video, was invited to his grandson's wedding. A big, joyful family occasion. He hadn't worn dress shoes in years, but he had a favorite pair, black leather, polished, timeless. They still fit, he said proudly. And in a way, they did. But by the end of the night, his feet were on fire. What Thomas didn't realize was that those shoes were quietly compressing the nerves along the balls of his feet. By the next morning, he had numbness in 2 toes. A week later, the tingling had spread. His balance felt off. He stumbled once in the kitchen and again in the driveway. It wasn't until a podiatrist ran a few tests that the truth came out. The nerve compression had triggered early symptoms of neuropathy. A condition that, in seniors, can quickly increase fall risk, limit mobility, and lead to chronic pain. And it all started with one night in a pair of shoes he hadn't worn in years. Here's what many people don't know: foot length and width don't always change together. You might still fit the length of a shoe, but if the width is too narrow, your foot is suffering with every step. This is especially risky for anyone with diabetes, poor circulation, or a history of nerve sensitivity. Because once feeling begins to fade in the feet, your entire posture shifts. You start compensating in subtle ways, leaning, limping, dragging a step, each adjustment placing more strain on your knees, hips, and back. And over time, that adds up. So what can you do? Start by letting go of the idea that still fits means still safe. You wouldn't drive a car with worn out brakes just because it still runs. Your shoes deserve the same level of attention, especially when the cost of being wrong could be your balance. Next time you're trying on dress shoes, prioritize width and toe space. Look for brands that offer wide or extra wide options, not just for comfort, but for long-term health. And if you're holding on to shoes you haven't worn in years, try them on at home. Walk around. Do they pinch? Rub? Leave a mark? If the answer is yes, it's time to let them go. Style matters. But safety matters more. And here's the good news, modern footwear designers understand this now. There are more stylish, orthopedic-friendly dress shoes available today than ever before. You don't have to choose between elegance and safety. You can have both. But the first step is awareness. So before we move on, I want to ask you, when was the last time you had your foot size measured, including width? For most people, the answer is not since high school. If you're unsure, if you've ever felt burning, tingling, or numbness in your toes after wearing dress shoes, it's not just age. It could be the fit. And the fix may be far simpler than you think. Coming up next, we'll talk about a choice so common, so natural, that most people never question it, until it leads to an injury that could have been easily prevented. Because deadly footwear number 7 isn't really footwear at all. Stay with me. Deadly footwear number 7, going barefoot. There's something comforting, even nostalgic, about walking barefoot. It reminds us of simpler times. Of warm summer mornings on the porch. Of childhood memories, running through grass or feeling the soft rug beneath our feet. For many seniors, going barefoot inside the house feels like a reward after years of wearing stiff shoes to work. A small luxury. A sense of freedom. But here's the truth that almost no one talks about. After the age of 60, going barefoot can be one of the most dangerous things you do at home. It may feel natural. But that doesn't mean it's safe. Let me explain why. When we're young, our feet have thick fat pads, natural cushions that absorb shock every time we walk. Our arches are stronger. Our nerve endings are fully responsive, helping us sense every change in surface beneath us. That's why walking barefoot on tile, wood, or carpet doesn't faze a 25-year-old. But as we age, all of that changes. Those fat pads thin out. The nerves in our feet lose sensitivity. Muscles weaken. Balance systems in the inner ear and brain slow down. What this means is simple: walking barefoot becomes riskier, because your body can't protect itself the way it used to. Now add modern flooring into the equation: smooth tile, polished hardwood, slick vinyl. These surfaces look beautiful, but they're hard. Unforgiving. And when you walk barefoot on them, each step sends sharp forces up through your heel, ankle, and spine. For someone over 60, especially with arthritis or joint degeneration, this is like hammering your bones with every step. Let me tell you about Thomas, yes, the same Thomas you've heard about throughout this video. One quiet morning, he stepped into his kitchen barefoot. The floor was cold, but nothing unusual. He didn't notice the small breadcrumb on the tile until it was too late. He stepped on it, barely felt it, and moved on. The next day, he noticed a red spot near his heel. A tiny cut. But Thomas has diabetic neuropathy, a condition that dulls nerve sensitivity. He couldn't feel the pain, so he ignored it. That tiny injury developed into a foot ulcer. It took 3 months to heal. 3 months of wound care, bandages, antibiotics, and missed family events. All from one moment of barefoot walking. And Thomas was lucky. Because for some seniors, a foot ulcer becomes infected. And in severe cases, it can lead to hospitalization, or worse. But the dangers of barefoot walking aren't just about cuts. There's also the risk of slipping. Without the traction that even the simplest footwear provides, it's much easier to lose your footing, especially when turning quickly, walking on rugs, or navigating stairs. Studies show that seniors who go barefoot indoors are nearly 40% more likely to experience a fall compared to those who wear supportive house shoes. Yet most people still think, it's fine, I'm just at home. But home is exactly where most senior falls occur. And barefoot walking is a major reason why. Now let me be clear, I'm not saying you should never take your shoes off. There are moments when it's appropriate. But if you're walking around your home, especially on hard or slick floors, your feet need protection. The good news? You don't need bulky sneakers or orthopedic shoes 24/7. There are lightweight, supportive, closed-back house shoes designed specifically for seniors. Shoes that offer soft soles, gentle arch support, and just enough grip to keep you stable on any surface. They're easy to slip on, cozy enough to wear for hours, and most importantly, they prevent pain and injury before it starts. So before we move on, ask yourself this. Have you been walking around barefoot more often, especially in the morning or at night? Have you ever stepped on something small and didn't feel it right away? Do your knees or back ache more after a day around the house? If so, your bare feet may be telling you something: they need support. It might seem like a small change. But putting on the right house shoes when you get out of bed can protect your body in ways that ripple across your entire day, your posture, your balance, even your energy levels. Because sometimes, the habits that feel most familiar are the ones that need to evolve as we do. Coming up next, we'll expose perhaps the most common footwear mistake of all, one that comes from good intentions, but leaves millions of seniors unprepared for the unique demands of aging feet. Stick around, because deadly footwear number 8 is probably in your closet right now. And it's doing more harm than you think. Deadly footwear number 8, one pair for everything. If there's one habit I see more than any other when it comes to shoes and seniors, it's this one. Not high heels. Not flip-flops. Not even barefoot walking. It's the belief, the quiet, deeply ingrained belief, that one good pair of shoes is enough for everything. And I understand it. Truly. We come from a generation that values simplicity, practicality, frugality. If you find a pair of shoes that feels comfortable, that doesn't hurt your feet, that seems to work. Why wouldn't you wear them everywhere? You walk in them. Garden in them. Run errands in them. Maybe even attend events in them. But here's the truth most people don't hear until it's too late. Your one pair of do-it-all shoes might be doing it all wrong. Because different activities put different demands on your body. Walking on pavement requires shock absorption. Standing in the kitchen needs arch support. Gardening asks for ankle stability and protection against uneven ground. And inside the house? You need grip and security on smooth floors. No single shoe can do all of that well. And when you force one pair to take on every task, two things happen. First, your shoes wear out faster, long before they look worn out. Second, and far more importantly, your body starts compensating for the support it isn't getting. And that's when pain creeps in. Knees that ache. Ankles that roll. Back pain that you chalk up to getting older. But often, it's not aging. It's misalignment. Fatigue. Instability. All caused by asking the wrong shoe to do the wrong job. Let me tell you about Thomas again. He was proud of his sneakers. A good pair from a trusted brand. Comfortable. Supportive. He wore them everywhere, for walks, yard work, even to family gatherings when dress shoes weren't an option anymore. But he started noticing something. After long walks, his knees ached. After gardening, his hips felt tight. He figured he was just getting stiff with age. But what was actually happening? Those walking shoes, which were built for flat sidewalks, were struggling to grip the uneven terrain of the garden. The soil got embedded in the soles, reducing traction during his next walk. And his foot, no longer supported properly, began to collapse inward, triggering a chain reaction of pain. It wasn't until he divided his footwear into different zones that everything changed. 3 pairs. 3 purposes. One massive difference in how he moved and felt. So here's the concept that changed Thomas's mobility, and that could change yours. The 3-zone system. Zone 1, home shoes. Lightweight, closed back, non-slip soles. For stability inside the house, especially on hard floors. Zone 2, everyday shoes. Your go-to for errands, walks, appointments. These need proper arch support, cushioned soles, and a secure fit tailored to your foot's needs. Zone 3, activity-specific shoes. For gardening, exercising, or any activity that places special demands on your balance or joints. These should be designed for the task at hand, protective, stable, and purpose-built. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. Because suddenly, you're no longer asking one tired pair to carry your body through every season of the day. You're giving your feet what they need, when they need it. And here's the best part, it doesn't have to be expensive. Thomas didn't break the bank. He invested in one high-quality everyday pair, because he wore them 60% of the time. For the others, he looked for sales, outlet stores, even second-hand options. And he still spent less than he used to on pain creams and over-the-counter inserts. So let me ask you a question, one that might feel uncomfortable. Are you trusting your whole body to just one pair of shoes? If the answer is yes, I urge you to reconsider. Because that one-size-fits-all approach might be quietly costing you your strength, your balance, your confidence, and eventually, your independence. Convenience is not worth the fall. Simplicity should not come at the expense of safety. And a shoe that works well enough in every situation often fails where it matters most. Coming up next, we'll explore the 3 powerful solutions that transformed Thomas's life, practical, affordable, medically backed strategies that helped him go from stiff and uncertain to walking confidently on trails with his grandkids. Because when it comes to your feet, small changes can lead to a lifelong difference. Solution number 1, professional shoe fitting. If there's one simple action that could transform how you walk, stand, and live, this is it. A professional shoe fitting. Not at a big box store. Not from a tape measure in your closet. But a real, in-person fitting. With someone trained to understand how the aging foot changes, and what that means for your balance, comfort, and long-term mobility. And here's the hard truth. Most people skip this step. In fact, over 80% of adults, yes, 8 out of 10, are walking around in the wrong size shoes. Not just a little off. The wrong length. The wrong width. The wrong arch support. For seniors, the consequences of that mistake aren't just blisters or soreness. They're falls. Joint pain. Nerve compression. Chronic fatigue. And a slow decline in independence that often goes unnoticed. Until it's too late. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Thomas, remember him? After months of dealing with unexplained knee pain, stiffness, and frequent stumbles, he finally took my advice. He walked into a specialty shoe store. Not a trendy mall outlet, but one that focused on orthopedic and comfort footwear for older adults. There, a certified fitter spent nearly 40 minutes with him. Not just asking for his size, but measuring both feet. Standing, not sitting. Because the foot spreads under your body weight. They measured width, not just at the ball of the foot, but at multiple points, including the heel and arch. They analyzed how he walked, watching his gait, his pressure points, how his foot rolled inward. And when it was done, the fitter gave Thomas news that shocked him. You've been wearing shoes a full size too small in width for years. Now, Thomas had never felt like his shoes were too tight. They didn't hurt. But when he stepped into the right size, correct width, better arch support, proper cushioning, his feet breathed for the first time in years. That very week, his knee pain began to fade. Here's why this matters so much for seniors. Your foot doesn't just grow longer as you age. It widens, flattens, and becomes more sensitive. The fat padding under your heel thins. Your toes may spread. And even slight pressure in the wrong place can lead to pain, numbness, and poor circulation, especially in people with diabetes or neuropathy. You wouldn't wear a pair of reading glasses that weren't your prescription. Why wear shoes that aren't sized and shaped for your current body? So here's what you need to do. Find a store that specializes in comfort or orthopedic footwear. Not just any shoe shop, but one where fitters understand aging feet. Ask if their team is certified or trained in geriatric fitting. Some may even have podiatrists on site. When you go, ask to be fitted while standing. Request a gait analysis. Ask which shoes suit your pressure points, your walking pattern, your daily habits. And don't stop there. Ask, how does my arch height affect which shoes I should wear? Where am I placing the most pressure when I walk? Which shoes are best for my foot shape, not just my shoe size? These are the kinds of questions that turn pretty good footwear into life-changing tools for mobility and safety. Thomas now shares his story proudly. I never thought a shoe fitting could change how I live. But now, I walk more, I stand longer, I hurt less, and I'm no longer afraid of falling. That's the power of getting it right. And it starts with a tape measure, a trained eye, and the willingness to say, maybe I've outgrown what used to work. Because you haven't failed your feet. You've just outlived the shoes you thought were still good enough. Coming up next, solution number 2, the 3-zone system. It's a simple framework you can use to make sure your shoes are working with you, not against you, at every stage of your day. And trust me, once you hear it, you'll never go back to one pair for everything again. Solution number 2, the 3-zone footwear system. Let's imagine something for a moment. You wouldn't wear gardening gloves to a wedding, right? Or winter boots to the beach. Because deep down, we all understand that different moments in life require different tools. And yet, when it comes to our feet, most people make the same critical mistake every single day. They rely on one pair of shoes. For everything. Walking. Cooking. Gardening. Shopping. Even resting around the house. But here's the truth, no single pair of shoes can support you properly across all those movements. And as we age, that mismatch becomes more than inconvenient. It becomes dangerous. That's why I teach every patient this concept, something so simple, so practical, and so transformative. I've seen it change lives in just a few weeks. The 3-zone footwear system. It's not a product. It's not a brand. It's a strategy, a way of thinking about your shoes based on what your body actually needs in different environments. Let's break it down. Zone 1, home shoes, stability from the moment you stand. This is where most falls happen, not outside, but right inside your home. Hardwood. Tile. Rugs. Stairs. Quick turns. Midnight bathroom trips. The risks are everywhere, especially when your guard is down. That's why your home shoes need to be non-slip, closed back, and structured enough to support your arches and heels. Not floppy slippers. Not barefoot. Not socks on hardwood. Thomas told me once, I used to walk barefoot around the house first thing every morning. My knees would tighten up. I thought it was just old age. But once I started wearing proper home shoes, the stiffness almost disappeared. Home is where your foundation begins. Start the day with a stable step. Zone 2, everyday shoes, your trusted allies for daily life. This is your main pair, the ones you wear to the grocery store, out for walks, to appointments or the post office. These shoes matter the most, because you spend the most time in them. But here's the catch, they need to be fitted to your foot, not the style. They should offer arch support that matches your unique shape. Shock absorption to protect your knees and hips. Firm soles for stability. And secure closures, laces or straps that hold you in without pressure. When Thomas finally invested in a high-quality pair of everyday support shoes, correct width, fitted arch, stable sole, his mysterious knee pain, the pain he thought was just aging, began to fade. Not after surgery. Not with medication. With the right shoes. Your daily steps deserve a shoe that helps your body, not one that silently breaks it down. Zone 3, activity-specific shoes, the task-ready support system. This is where most people overlook the risk. Gardening. Light exercise. Walking the dog. Attending events. Each activity places a different kind of stress on your feet, ankles, and joints. And if you wear the same shoes for all of them, your body will absorb the imbalance, and you'll pay for it later. Gardening? You need ankle support and soles that grip on uneven ground. Long walks? You need flexible soles and responsive cushioning. Slippery outdoor steps? You need serious traction, not smooth dress soles. Even dress occasions can be handled with modern footwear that looks formal but provides orthopedic grade support. Thomas shared with me, I used to think 3 pairs of shoes was excessive. Now I see it like this: 1 pair helps me stay upright in the kitchen. 1 helps me keep up with my grandkids. 1 keeps me pain-free in the garden. That's not extra, it's essential. When you divide your footwear into zones, your body no longer has to compensate for what your shoes lack. Your joints relax. Your balance improves. Your pain decreases. And you start doing things you'd quietly given up on, without even realizing it. And the cost? It's far less than the price of a single ER visit. Less than a round of cortisone shots. Less than 1 bad fall. Because outfitting yourself with 3 functional pairs of shoes doesn't just protect your feet, it protects your freedom. So take a moment. Look at the shoes you rely on most. Ask yourself, do I have a shoe for home, for every day, and for specific tasks? If not, this might be the simplest, smartest change you make this year. Next, we'll dive into the final piece of this puzzle, solution number 3, custom orthotics and strategic adjustments. Because even the best shoes can be made better when they're tailored to the shape and story of your feet. Solution number 3, orthotics and adjustments. By now, you've heard the stories. You've seen how small footwear choices ripple out into chronic pain, stumbles, even falls. But there's one more secret I want to share with you, one final piece that ties everything together. Even with the right shoes, sometimes it's not enough. Because your feet are as unique as your fingerprint. And no matter how advanced a shoe is, it was still built for the average foot, not your foot. That's where this final solution comes in. The one that's helped more of my older patients regain mobility than anything else. Orthotics and adjustments. Now, let's be clear. I'm not talking about those generic foam inserts you buy at the drugstore, soft, squishy, and flat within a month. I'm talking about real support. Targeted. Thoughtful. Therapeutic. Orthotics aren't just extra padding. They're alignment tools. When done right, they redistribute pressure, correct gait problems, stabilize weak arches, and even prevent nerve compression, often without needing new shoes at all. Let's take Thomas again. He'd already switched to properly fitted shoes. He had his 3-zone system in place. And he felt better. But something was still off. On longer walks, he'd feel his arches burn. His hips would tighten. His old posture was creeping back in. So, he tried orthotics. Not the $400 fully custom versions. Not at first. He started with something simple, heat moldable inserts. He placed them in the oven for a few minutes, then stood on them while they cooled. The material shaped to the contours of his feet, supporting him in all the right places. The result? Within 2 weeks, that burning pain disappeared. His balance improved. His steps felt lighter. His posture straightened. He told me, it was like my feet finally found their home again. Here's why this works. When your arches collapse or your gait becomes uneven, your entire skeletal system shifts to compensate. Your knees absorb stress they were never designed for. Your lower back twists with every step. Your hips fight to stabilize you, even while you're standing still. Orthotics reverse that cascade. They bring the ground up to meet your foot, instead of forcing your foot to mold to a hard, flat surface. And you don't always need custom-made devices to get results. Studies show that semi-custom orthotics, especially heat-moldable ones, can deliver 70 to 80% of the benefit of fully custom inserts at a fraction of the cost. For those who do need advanced support, like people with severe diabetic neuropathy, foot deformities, or spinal issues, Medicare often covers the cost when they're prescribed as therapeutic orthotics for fall prevention. That's the key phrase to remember if you talk to your doctor. Therapeutic. Fall prevention. But orthotics aren't the only tool here. You can also adjust your existing shoes in simple, low-cost ways that have a massive impact. A professional stretch can expand tight shoes in the toe box or heel area, great for bunions or swelling. Gel heel pads or metatarsal cushions can relieve pressure points instantly. Even replacing thin factory insoles with shock-absorbing alternatives can reduce joint impact by up to 40%. Thomas now applies these strategies to every pair he owns. He told me, "It's like turning regular shoes into custom shoes. And I didn't have to throw anything away." He even travels with a few sets of inserts, swapping them depending on the day's activities. It gives him confidence, comfort, and control over his mobility. Something he thought he'd lost for good. So let me ask you. Have you ever tried an insole that actually made a difference? Or have you given up on them because the ones you tried were too soft, too generic, too disappointing? If you haven't found the right fit, you haven't failed. You've just been given the wrong tool. And that's what this solution is really about, empowering you to personalize your support. Because your shoes don't have to be expensive. But they do have to be right. And sometimes, it's not about buying new ones. It's about making small, strategic changes that align with the shape of your foot and the rhythm of your life. Orthotics and adjustments won't just change how you walk. They'll change how you feel at the end of the day. They'll give you energy you thought was gone. And they'll reduce the fear of falling that silently holds so many people back. You don't have to settle for good enough anymore. Because when your shoes support the real you, the one you are now, you walk stronger, stand taller, and live freer. Coming up next, we'll return to Thomas's full journey, and reveal how these 3 solutions gave him more than better shoes. They gave him his life back. And maybe, they can do the same for you. Let's take a moment and step back. You've now seen the hidden dangers most people never think twice about. 8 seemingly ordinary footwear choices that, over time, can steal not only your comfort but your strength, your balance, and your independence. You've also seen the solutions. Not complicated. Not expensive. But transformational. And if you've made it this far, I want to speak to you directly, not as a doctor, but as someone who's stood in hospital rooms, in quiet rehab centers, in homes where once vibrant lives were interrupted by one fall that changed everything. I've looked into the eyes of people who thought they had more time to hike, to travel, to chase after grandkids, to dance at weddings, to walk hand in hand through familiar neighborhoods. And I've also seen something else, something just as powerful. I've seen what happens when someone decides that decline is not inevitable. When they stop accepting daily pain as the price of growing older. When they make one small change, better shoes, smarter support, real alignment, and suddenly, everything shifts. That was Thomas's story. 6 months after his fall, after frustration and physical therapy, after trying every cream, pad, and pain reliever, he committed to these 3 steps. Getting professionally fitted. Dividing his footwear into zones. Using orthotics to give his body the support it had been silently crying out for. He didn't expect miracles. But that's what it felt like. The man who once feared walking to the mailbox? He now hikes wooded trails with his grandchildren. He's the first to get up at family gatherings. He walks with confidence, with energy, with purpose. And most of all, he's free. That freedom didn't come from a pill. It didn't come from surgery. It came from something most people never think to look at, his shoes. Now, I want you to pause and reflect. What are you wearing right now? How long have you had them? Have you noticed new aches in your knees? A slight hesitation before a step? That quiet voice in the back of your mind saying, "Be careful"? You're not imagining it. Your body is speaking to you. And you have a choice, right here, right now, to listen. Because mobility is more than movement. It's dignity. It's freedom. It's connection. It's being able to say yes to life, yes to walks, to family, to adventure, to joy. So don't wait for a wake-up call. Don't wait for a fall, or a diagnosis, or a missed memory. Start today. Reevaluate your footwear. Get fitted. Create your 3 zones. Try an orthotic that matches your stride, not your shoe size. Then watch how quickly things begin to change. You may not notice it all at once. But one day soon, you'll realize you're walking longer, standing taller, sitting less, smiling more. And on that day, I hope you remember this. You didn't just change your shoes. You reclaimed your freedom.